Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. And today we're getting into some real nitty-gritty fight knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking mixed martial arts.
Yeah, listener request.
Absolutely. And this one, this is a big one.
This is a good one.
This is Mixed Martial Arts, the Book of Knowledge by the one and only
BJ Penn.
BJ Penn.
Prodigy.
Yeah, Glenn Cordoza and Eric Krause.
And this is 2007.
2007, this book came out.
This is like, this is peak.
Yeah.
Like the sport is like really getting going.
It's blowing up.
Everyone's starting to understand it, yeah.
And to have like a, two-division UFC champion kind of laying down the blueprint here.
Absolutely. Like this is like a master class from somebody who's been there and done it at the highest level.
At the highest level. And so what we want to do today in this deep dive is really break down some of the essential knowledge, because this book, it's pretty comprehensive.
It is.
It gets into, everything from the basics of stance and striking to takedowns, clinch work,
Cage work,
ground fighting.
it's all there.
And so we want to kind of pull out the core, the most important stuff.
The gems.
So that you, our listener, can have a real solid understanding of MMA.
Fundamentals.
Without feeling like you just went through
a training camp.
Grueling training camp.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get into it. I think it makes sense to start with
with the stand-up.
the stand-up game.
Yeah, you got to start there.
A book really emphasizes the importance of a strong foundation, and that begins with
stance. And this is something that even people who've been training for a long time.
Oh yeah.
They can forget.
You get tired, you get hit.
You're under pressure, you're in the, in the bright lights, in the cage.
And all of a sudden you're like, what happened to my feet?
Yeah, your feet are crossed and you're all out of whack.
Yeah, so the book is really clear about keeping those feet roughly shoulder width apart for that stable base.
Yeah, it's about balance.
Yeah.
If you're too narrow, you can get knocked over. Right.
If you're too wide, you're slow.
Yeah, you can't move.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
And he's very explicit about never crossing your feet.
Oh, yeah. That's like rule number one.
Yeah, as soon as you do that, you're off balance. You're going to get
you're going to get
caught with something.
You're going to get hit. You're going to get taken down. It's not a good look.
No. So feet shoulder width apart, not crossing the feet. And then he talks about keeping the knees slightly bent, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be standing straight up like a statue.
Like a robot.
Yeah, you want to be like ready to move, like a spring.
Yeah, like athletic.
Athletic, ready to react.
This is slightly bent knees. And then, of course, hands up.
Of course, this is like fighting 101.
Yeah, protect the face.
Protect your moneymaker.
And then that chin tucked position.
Oh, so important.
It seems minor, but it
makes a world of difference.
Oh yeah, it really changes.
The amount of surface area that you're presenting
to that punch.
Yeah, that shin down.
Chin down, hands up, knees bent.
Feet shoulder width apart.
There's your foundation.
Okay, so you've got that stance down. Now we can start talking about
with throwing some leather.
Start
striking.
Yeah. And the book really hones in on what it considers the core, the most effective strikes for MMA.
Right.
The cross the hook.
Overhand uppercut.
Yeah. It's interesting, he kind of narrows it down.
Well, I think from his perspective, it's about efficiency.
Yeah.
These are the strikes that have the best balance of power, accuracy.
Versatility.
Yeah, you can use them to set up other things like takedowns.
Yeah. And, MMA striking, it's come a long way since 2007.
For sure.
But these are still like the
building blocks.
The foundation.
Yeah, you got to have these.
Right. And it's not just about, throwing them out there wildly.
Mm-hmm.
There's some key principles for making sure that they land.
Oh, yeah.
Effectively. And that you're not, putting yourself at
a trap technique.
So he talks a lot about keeping the opposite hand upright.
Always. Even when you're punching with your right, your left hand is up, protecting your face.
Protecting the chin.
Yep.
Chin down, of course, as we said.
Always.
And then he talks about this idea of like attaching your shoulder to your punch.
Yes. So you're not just arm punching, you're getting your whole body into it.
You're turning
your hips, you're putting your shoulder behind the punch.
It's almost like you're almost like hugging yourself with the punch.
In a way, yeah, you're compacting your body and then exploding out.
And that helps generate more power.
Way more power.
And it also kind of protects your chin even more.
Exactly. Yeah, your shoulder is like a shield.
Yeah, okay. And then he really emphasizes connecting with those knuckles.
Yes, the first two knuckles.
The first two.
Not the flat of your hand, not your pinky. You want those hard knuckles.
So you're not breaking your hand.
Right.
And then that sharp exhale on impact.
Yeah.
You always hear fighters talk about that.
Breathing is so important in fighting.
Yeah, what's the science behind that?
Well, when you exhale sharply, it engages your core muscles,
Okay.
which helps with power,
Yeah.
but it also stabilizes your body so you're less likely to get countered.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's not just about like making a noise. It's
Oh,
actually
it's functional.
functional.
Okay.
It's all connected.
Okay, so we've got the stance, we've got the punches, and now this is where the MMA element really comes in.
Yeah, the blend.
The blend of striking and takedowns.
Because in MMA, the stand-up is not just about boxing.
Right.
It's not just about kickboxing. It's about knowing that at any moment
That takedown could come?
that takedown could come.
Yeah, it's a constant threat.
And a constant opportunity.
Yeah.
You can use your strikes to set up your takedowns and vice versa.
So it becomes this really dynamic kind of chess match.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, where you're trying to anticipate what your opponent's going to do.
Reading their reactions.
Yeah, are they worried about the takedown? Are they overcommitting to their punches? Yeah, if they're scared of the takedown, they might be standing too low.
And then you can catch them with an uppercut.
Exactly.
Or if they're just, headhunting.
You can duck under and get that double leg.
Right. And the book really stresses this idea of not telegraphing your takedowns.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to be bending over from a mile away.
Yeah, you got to make it look like part of the same attack.
Seamless.
Seamless. So he specifically mentions the single leg and the double leg takedowns as
Fundamentals.
fundamental examples of this kind of blend.
Yeah. Everyone who trains MMA needs to know these takedowns.
Yeah, for someone who might be listening and not, super familiar with the wrestling side of things, can you kind of break down the mechanics of a single leg takedown?
Sure. So, picture this. You're facing your opponent.
Yeah.
And you see an opening, maybe they drop their hands or they shift their weight.
Yeah.
You're going to bend your legs to get low and you're going to shoot in for one of their legs.
Which leg?
Doesn't really matter as long as you get one. You want to get it around the knee or below the knee.
Okay.
And as soon as you get that leg, you're going to drive your head into their body.
Oh, okay.
So you're not just standing there holding their leg. You're using your head as a weapon
To break their balance.
to break their posture, to elevate that leg that you've grabbed.
Right.
And then from there, it's about driving forward, pulling that leg towards you,
Yeah.
and using your body weight to bring them down to the mat.
Okay, so you're not just kind of like pulling on the leg. You're really using your whole body.
Your whole body, it's a full body movement.
Okay.
And you got to keep those feet moving.
You got to keep driving.
You got to keep driving until they hit the mat.
Okay, so the strike can be the setup.
Exactly.
And then boom, you shoot in for the leg.
Seamless transition.
So dynamic. Yeah. Okay, so what happens when someone tries to take you down?
Well, then you got to know how to defend.
We're getting into counterattacks.
Counter-zucks.
Yeah, this is where things get.
This is where the fight gets real interesting.
Yeah, because a good counter, it can really change the momentum of a fight.
Oh, yeah. A well-timed counter can completely shut down your opponent's offense.
Yeah, it's not just about like blocking or defending. It's about
It's about capitalizing on their mistakes,
punishing them for even trying it.
making them pay.
So the book kind of breaks it down into two categories.
Countering strikes and countering takedowns.
Right, so let's start with countering strikes.
Okay.
On the surface, it seems kind of simple,
Right? You punch back.
but there's a lot more to it.
Oh, yeah, a lot more.
It's not just about trading punches. It's about,
Timing and accuracy.
yeah,
You want to hit them when they're vulnerable.
when they're least expecting it.
Exactly, like when they're extending with their punch or when they're retracting.
When your pro balance is off.
They're not expecting you to come back with something.
So he gives some basic examples like countering a jab with a jab.
Or countering a cross with a cross.
But you're doing it with better timing. You're doing it with
More precision.
Yeah. And then he talks about the specific technique of slipping to the outside of a right cross and then coming back.
Well,
We're
big
not-
overhand, right? Or a
Right.
hook.
Yeah, like a classic counter.
Classic.
But it requires good head movement.
You got to get out of the way of that first punch.
Yeah. And then you got to be explosive with that counter.
And you can't just counter for the sake of countering. You know, you got to make sure you're in a safe position. You're not just walking into another shot.
Right. Okay, so countering strikes, it's all about timing accuracy
Precision.
and making sure that you're not just, leaving yourself open.
Right.
Okay, now countering the takedown.
This is huge for fighters who want to keep the fight standing.
Yeah, if you're not a wrestler,
If you don't want to go to the ground,
this is essential knowledge.
you got to know how to sprawl.
Yeah, so he talks about some general principles like maintaining a wide base.
Yeah, so you're not easy to topple over.
Right, sprawling effectively.
So getting your hips back and down,
and using your hands and head to control your opponent.
Right, you want to keep them from getting under your hips.
Yeah, because once they get under your hips, it's
It's over.
pretty much over.
You're going for a ride.
So he also talks about specific counters, like using knees from the sprawl position.
High knees, straight knees.
Brutal. Yeah, very effective.
Can you kind of paint a picture of how you would use a high knee from a sprawl?
Sure. So imagine someone shoots in for a takedown.
Yeah.
You sprawl back, you get your hips down,
Okay.
and you might find yourself with a grip on the back of their head or their neck.
Oh, okay.
And from there, you can just drive your knee straight up,
Oh, wow.
right into their face or their chest or their body.
Nasty.
Very nasty. Okay, so sprawl control
And punish.
and punish with those knees.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the fight doesn't always stay at a distance, right?
Sometimes it gets close.
Sometimes it gets real close.
Cinch time.
The clinch time. Yeah, this is a whole other...
A whole other world. It's
Yeah.
like a fight within a fight.
It's this weird in-between zone.
Yeah, you're not quite striking. You're not quite grappling.
And there's so many different things you can do from there.
You can strike. You can take them down. You can control them.
Yeah, and he kind of outlines these different clinch styles.
The wrestling clinch, the Muay Thai clinch, the dirty boxing clinch.
Yeah, let's talk about that dirty boxing clinch for a second.
Oh, yeah, that's a fun one.
It sounds...
Just gritty.
Yeah, it sounds like a street fight in a phone booth.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's all about short, powerful strikes.
Like, what kind of strikes are we talking?
Uppercuts to the body, hooks to the head, sometimes even headbutts if they're legal.
Really?
Yeah, it's a nasty range.
So it's all about, like, getting inside position and just...
And just unleashing short bursts of power.
He talks about this one technique of kind of bumping your forearm back.
Yeah, it's like a little trick to create some space.
Okay.
You bump their arm back, and then you can sneak in a quick punch.
Oh, sneaky.
And then you're right back in the clinch.
And he also describes this body lock takedown to the back that you can initiate from that clinch.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah, can you break that down?
So you've got that body lock around their waist.
Okay.
And you're going to use that grip to lift and turn them.
Okay.
And as they're falling, you're going to step over their leg and take their back.
So it's a smooth transition from...
From striking to grappling.
Yeah. Okay. So the clinch is not just about holding on. It's
Not
about...
control. It's
And
about
not-
offense.
like
It's
that-
about creating opportunities.
Okay, now sometimes that clinch work or a takedown attempt can lead you right to the edge of the fighting area.
Cage.
Yeah, fighting against the cage.
Cage work.
Yeah.
This is where things get interesting.
Yeah, because the cage, it's a unique element of MMA.
You don't see it in other combat sports,
Correct.
so you got to know how to use it,
To your advantage.
both offensively and defensively.
So offensively, he talks about pressing against the cage.
Yeah, getting your opponent trapped.
What are the benefits of doing that?
Well, you're limiting their movement.
Okay.
They can't circle away from you. They can't create angles. It
Oh.
makes it harder for them to strike.
Yeah.
And it also makes it easier for you to take them down.
So you're really like cutting off the cage.
You're cutting off the cage. You're putting them in a corner.
Yeah.
And you're using your weight to pin them there.
He talks about maintaining a low center of gravity.
Yeah. You don't want to be standing straight up. You want to be low and heavy.
And just driving into them.
Driving into them, wearing them down.
And then he describes this specific technique
Yeah.
of using the cage to set up a double leg takedown.
Yeah. You drive them into the cage and then you drop down for the double leg.
And they have nowhere to go.
They're stuck.
Okay, so the cage becomes like an extra tool.
An extension of your body.
Yeah, okay, but what happens if you're the one who's pinned against the cage?
Not a good place to be.
No.
But you can't panic.
You got to stay calm.
And you have to work your way out.
So what are some of the strategies there?
Well, the main thing is you don't want to be flat against the cage.
Right.
You want to create space.
Okay.
You want to turn your body. You want to use the cage for leverage.
And he shows this one counter for a single leg takedown where you're actually using the cage to help you defend.
Yeah, you sprawl back.
Hmm.
You use the cage to elevate your leg,
Oh, interesting.
and you create that separation.
Okay, so even when you're pinned,
There's always a way out.
there's always a way out. You just got to be creative.
Think outside the box.
Okay, now let's talk about a different aspect of MMA.
Ground game.
Ground game.
Striking the down guard.
This is once the fight goes to the ground and...
One person's on their back.
Yeah.
And the other person's on top.
Yeah, and the person on top needs to have a different approach to striking.
Absolutely. You can't just throw punches like you're standing up.
Yeah, because you're worried about...
Submission sweeps.
Yeah, you don't want to get caught.
You gotta be smart.
So he talks about some key concepts for striking from this top guard position.
Keep your head back. Maintain good posture.
Yeah.
Keep your lead leg bent and strong.
So you're not overextended.
Right. You don't want to be giving them easy levers to sweep you.
And then he gives some specific strikes that are effective from this position.
Like face stomp. If it's legal, punches to create space or to set up passes.
And he even shows how you can use strikes to help you defend against submissions.
Yeah, like if they're going for an ankle lock, you can punch them in the face to distract them.
Oh, sneaky.
And then grab their leg.
Okay, so even on the ground, the striking, it's not just about damage, it's about
control.
Strategy.
Setting things up.
Okay, now let's switch perspectives and talk about the person on the bottom.
Guard bottom.
Guard bottom.
The infamous guard.
Yeah, you're on your back, but you're not out of the fight.
Not at all.
And the book really stresses that
you have options.
You have options.
You can sweep, you can submit, you can get back to your feet.
And the key is to stay active.
Don't just lay there and get punched.
Yeah, you got to be constantly working.
Keep your opponent close.
Oh.
Control their posture.
So he mentions the sit-up guard as kind of like a key transitional position.
Yeah, it's a good way to create some space and start attacking.
Okay, so instead of just laying flat on your back, you're propping yourself up.
Yeah, you're using your arm to create an angle.
And from there,
you can go for sweeps, you can go for submissions, you can even stand up.
Okay, and he describes this technique for setting up an armbar from the guard.
The posture up to armbar?
Yeah. How does that work?
So your opponent's trying to posture up to punch you.
Yeah.
You're going to control one of their arms and you're going to pull them down a little bit.
Okay.
And then you're going to swing your leg over their shoulder and trap their arm.
And
then you extend the arm for the arm bar.
Oh, okay. So it's like you're using their posture against them.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, of course, the fundamental goal is to get back to your feet.
Standing up from guard.
Yeah. What are some techniques for doing that?
Well, he shows a technique called the kick out to standing, where you use your feet to push off your opponent's hips, create some space, and then shrimp your hips back and stand up.
Okay.
And the whole time, you got to keep your hands up to block punches.
Because you're vulnerable when you're...
It's your transition.
Yeah. Okay, so creating that separation is key.
Always.
Now, even when you're on your back, in guard, you can still strike.
Oh, yeah. You can still be offensive.
Striking past the guard.
It's tricky, but it's possible.
He mentions some combinations, like the body head.
Yeah, mixing it up.
Keep him guessing.
And he also shows this cool counter, the hammer fist to elbow.
How does that work?
So you throw a hammer fist, maybe just to kind of bait them.
Yeah.
And then when they react, you come up with that elbow.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, it's a good way to catch them off guard.
And then finally, there's this mysterious technique called the Mike Pyle Special.
Oh, yeah, the Mike Pyle Special.
What is that?
It's kind of a trick play.
Okay.
You're in butterfly guard, and you do something to distract your opponent.
Like what?
Maybe you shift your weight really suddenly, or you kick out with your legs.
Okay.
And then while they're distracted, you sneak in a punch.
Really?
Yeah, it's all about timing and deception.
It's like a magic trick.
Pretty much.
Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground.
We've gone from the feet to the ground.
From stance to submissions.
And everything in between.
Yeah, and this is all from BJ Penn's
The Book of Knowledge.
Mixed Martial Arts, The Book of Knowledge.
It's a classic.
It really is, and it really gives you an appreciation for...
the complexity of the sport.
Yeah, it's not just two guys.
Hanging.
Yeah. There's so much strategy. There's so much technique.
It's like a physical chess match.
Yeah, and it's constantly evolving.
Oh, yeah. Always.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener.
Chew on this.
Think about that interplay between striking and grappling.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, it's the integration of those two things that makes MMA so unique and so dynamic.
And so challenging.
And ask yourself,
which area are you most interested in?
Yeah. Do you want to work on your jab? Do you want to master your takedown defense?
Do you want to be a submission wizard?
There's so much to explore.
Go out there and train.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.
See ya.